Have you ever felt so close to achieving a dream, only to see everything crumble right before your eyes? Imagine being an ordinary man with a heart full of big dreams and a burning passion for entrepreneurship. Life seemed full of promises until the first attempts turned into a series of bitter failures. Investments that didn't pan out, endless nights without tangible results. What do you do when your faith in your own potential begins to wane and the idea of giving up seems like the only way out? This is the beginning of a journey that many would abandon. But what if I told you that even when everything seems lost, there is a light at the end of the tunnel? In a moment of despair, he did something that few have the courage to do. One last attempt, and that decision could change his life forever. As time went by, the weight of the defeats began to become unbearable. He had invested his savings, poured his soul into each project, and still every attempt seemed to crumble in his hands. Endless nights of hard work turned into a constant stream of frustrations. With each new failure, the hope that once shone brightly began to fade, like a candle extinguishing in a storm. The dreams that once seemed so close now felt like distant illusions. The thought that all the effort had been in vain was overwhelming. He spent hours sitting in the darkness, questioning whether there was any point in continuing. Every mistake, every wrong decision felt like a cruel reminder that perhaps he wasn't cut out for this. He had reached the point of wondering if his passion was just a mirage, if his desire to venture was nothing more than an unrealistic fantasy. And then, at the height of his hopelessness, with a heavy heart and a mind full of doubts, he found himself on the brink of giving up. But even at rock bottom, something inside him still screamed to fight, to try one last time. It was then, amidst the chasm of despair, that something unexpected began to form. In a moment of absolute silence, when the world seemed to have crumbled around him, he made a crucial decision: to make one last attempt. It wasn't a decision made lightly, but a choice charged with desperation and mixed hope. He knew he needed to change. Simply repeating what he had done before wouldn't get him anywhere. He dove headfirst into a marathon of reflection and analysis, revisiting each mistake and failure with a new lens. Each failure became a guide, not an obstacle. He began to seek inspiration outside of usual patterns, studying the cases of people who had also faced immense adversities and yet managed to triumph. Instead of sinking into self-pity, he became a tireless student of his own journey. With a new focus and a renewed approach, he sought mentors and advisors, people who could offer not only guidance, but also a fresh perspective. Received, each new idea discussed, he felt that he was slowly reconstructing the broken pieces of his dreams. It wasn't just a desperate attempt, but a carefully thought-out strategy based on learning and As the days went by and he adjusted his course, a new sense of determination began to emerge. The hope, which had once seemed like a distant dream, was back, fueled by the desire to turn an almost abandoned idea into something real and tangible. He knew he couldn't guarantee success, but the only certainty he had was that if he didn't try, he would never know what he could have achieved. With each passing day, the atmosphere around the protagonist seemed to change. The old feeling of defeat was replaced by fierce determination and a new strategy. But the path was not free of obstacles. Difficulties continued to arise, and each new attempt was like a test of his resilience. The final challenges were the toughest, testing not only his skills, but also his spirit. It was as if the universe was giving a final push, forcing him to confront his greatest fears and insecurities. Sleepless nights and lingering doubts persisted, but now he was armed with a solid plan and a clear vision. Every problem that arose was met with a combination of frustration and an unshakable will to find a solution. He was no longer just reacting, he was actively solving, adapting, and evolving. And then, at a decisive moment, something incredible happened. After a series of adjustments and tireless efforts, the project began to show signs of life. The progress, though small, was tangible. It was like seeing a fragile plant emerging from the soil after a long season of drought. Each small advance fueled his hope and belief that he was on the right track. He began to see the transformation he had dreamed of, but he knew he still needed to maintain focus and energy. The road was far from easy, but now, instead of fighting against the tide, he felt he was starting to surf on it. Success was no longer a distant dream, but a growing reality, shaped by persistence and continuous adaptation. And so, as he moved forward with a refined strategy and a new perspective, it was clear that the end of the journey was closer than he had imagined. He had turned an almost forgotten idea into something real and promising, showing himself and the world that even when everything seemed lost, persistence and the ability to learn from challenges could open doors to success. With progress finally beginning to take shape, the protagonist faced a new set of challenges. Though success was within reach, the path was still full of unexpected twists and unforeseen obstacles. The initial euphoria of achievement quickly gave way to a new wave of pressures and expectations. Each advancement came with new responsibilities and complexities. He found himself plunged into a storm of deadlines, negotiations, and final adjustments. The pressure was intense, and old doubts began to resurface, questioning whether he was truly ready to handle the success he had pursued with such intensity. However, instead of succumbing to fear and stress, he remembered the journey he had undertaken and the lessons he had learned. He began to see these new challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities to further strengthen his venture. With each problem solved, he was not only getting closer to his goal, but also becoming stronger and wiser. It was in this moment of high pressure that the true essence of success was revealed. He realized that success was not simply about achieving a goal, but about personal transformation and the ability to face and overcome unexpected challenges. Each difficulty overcome was a testament to his determination and resilience, and each small success was a reward for his persistence. Finally, looking at the project that was now up and running, he felt a wave of accomplishment and pride. What started as a nearly abandoned dream had become a vibrant reality, a testament to the fact that even in the darkest hours, inner strength and adaptability can turn any dream into success. As the venture began to gain traction, the protagonist found himself at a crucial turning point. The victories, although significant, did not come without ongoing challenges. He had become a symbol of perseverance, but the real test was just beginning. With each success came new expectations and growing pressure to live up to them. It was like being on an emotional roller coaster, where each ascent brought a sense of achievement, and each descent felt like an imminent threat. The days were filled with tough decisions, and he was constantly on the brink between optimism and the fear of failure. The tensions that were once just theories now became tangible realities, and the balance between maintaining quality and expanding the business was more delicate than he had imagined. During this time, he found himself revisiting the principles that had brought him this far, confronting the idea that success should be an endless journey. He learned to celebrate small victories, to recognize the value of continuous progress, and to understand that true success lay not only in achieving goals, but in maintaining the integrity and passion that had driven him from the start. With renewed determination and a deeper understanding of his own journey, he began to redefine the meaning of success. The true triumph was not only in reaching the destination, but in how he transformed along the way. Each challenge overcome became an essential part of his story, and each moment of doubt was turned into a valuable lesson. Finally, looking back at the winding road he had traveled, he realized that the journey had been not only about achieving a dream, but about becoming the best version of himself. And, as he continued to build upon the success he had achieved, he knew that the true legacy of his endeavor would be the strength and wisdom gained from facing and overcoming each obstacle. As the project continued to thrive, the protagonist faced a new dilemma. The success that had once seemed so distant was now within reach, but the reality of maintaining it began to reveal itself in all its complexity. The pressure to not only satisfy clients and investors, but also to constantly reinvent himself became almost overwhelming. Each new phase brought unforeseen challenges and growing demands. Competition was becoming fierce, and the market was changing rapidly. He found that, to survive and thrive, he could not rest on his laurels. There was a constant need for innovation and adaptation, and he was faced with the monumental task of balancing stability with evolution. It was during these moments of high pressure that he realized the importance of collaboration. By seeking the support of a dedicated and passionate team, he found a new source of strength and creativity. Together, they faced challenges and turned obstacles into opportunities for growth. Collaboration became the key not only to maintaining success, but to expanding it in unexpected ways. He began to invest more time in developing a team culture that valued creativity, communication, and resilience. Each team member brought new ideas and perspectives, helping to shape the future of the venture. True success was no longer an individual achievement, but a collective accomplishment, achieved through unity and joint effort. As he looked back at the road he had traveled, he realized that the true triumph was not only in having overcome difficulties, but in having created a legacy of innovation and collaboration. The journey had transformed not only his venture, but also the way he viewed the business world. And so, with a renewed vision and the team by his side, he was ready to face the next challenges and continue building a bright future. With the team now in full sync and the venture growing, the protagonist faced an unexpected challenge: the need to confront a colossal, unforeseen issue that threatened to destabilize everything he had built. A financial crisis emerged, triggered by a failure in a crucial partnership and a series of unfavorable decisions. The news hit like a bombshell. What had once seemed like a bright future was now at risk, and the tension behind the scenes was palpable. The feeling of having already faced and overcome difficulties, only to be confronted with a new nightmare, was devastating. However, he remembered the lessons learned throughout his journey, that adversity is often a disguised opportunity. Determined not to let fear and uncertainty overwhelm him, he called an emergency meeting with his team. With courageous transparency, he presented the situation and invited everyone to collaborate in finding solutions. This moment of vulnerability not only strengthened trust within the team, but also sparked a wave of creativity and resilience. Together, they began to develop a recovery strategy, reviewing every aspect of the business and seeking new sources of funding and strategic partners. The collective effort and renewed dedication began to turn the crisis into an opportunity for restructuring and innovation. Each idea generated and each plan implemented was a step towards a recovery that seemed increasingly possible. As the storm began to subside, the protagonist and his team realized that they had emerged stronger and more cohesive than ever. The crisis had reinforced their commitment and consolidated the values that sustained the venture. They had not only survived, but also found a new purpose and an expanded vision for the future. And so, after facing and overcoming each challenge, the protagonist reached a crucial point in his journey. What had started as a nearly abandoned dream had transformed into a successful and resilient venture. The crisis that seemed like the end had become an opportunity to reassess, innovate, and strengthen the bonds with his team. He not only achieved success, but also discovered the true essence of perseverance. His story is a powerful reminder that even when things seem to fall apart, there is always a chance to start over, learn, and grow. True triumph is not just in reaching goals, but in how you transform along the way. If you felt inspired by this journey and believe that persistence can transform lives, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Here you'll find more motivational stories and practical tips to achieve your own dreams. Leave a comment about what you thought of this story and share it with friends who might benefit from this message. Together, let's continue to explore stories of overcoming challenges and success, and remember that no matter how difficult the path may seem, persistence and resilience are the keys to turning any dream into reality. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.